Paul. St. Paul, in the 2 Corinthians, 11:24 to be precise.
Ooh.
In the morning. No, in the Bible. It's Paul takes a beating. Because in the old days, you see, they didn't used to have prisons. Not in Jewish culture. Right, you could go in there, get flogged, be out by lunchtime, no criminal record at all. It wasn't held against you, you have paid. Right? But you would have to get beaten, lashed. It would be a permanent reminder of painy hurt and scars upon your back. You was marked. I got stripes, stripes upon my shoulder. Where do you think that comes from?
I don't know.
Stripes. Count 9,000. Is what Paul had to happen then several times. How many times they beat him? What was the sentence?
2 within one lash of his life, I think it was.
And a man's life was estimated at 40 strokes.
So 38, 39.
39. How old was I?
39.
One more hit and I'd have been dead. But he wouldn't have stood it. 39 strokes. So we're going to do that today when we go. I'm going to show them that in prison. We're going to do, you can't always get what you want, but if you pray sometimes you might just find you get what you need. And in the middle bit where it goes fast, I'm going to ask him to count 40. What, you know, dun 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 dun, you know. And we'll go faster and faster and faster and faster to make them physically understand what people used to have to go through. But then they were free. Now you get to sit in a room for several years instead, but that's how it used to work.
Well, they put them in rooms because it gives them the opportunity to reflect on what they'd done. And
yes.
In your case, Joshua, you were lying on a hospital bed reflecting on what you'd done.
I was, yeah.
And in your case, did you in the end give up, give in, and turn to God in repentance, in regret?
Profoundly both. Yeah. It is a cataclysm of an avalanche of just folly and the waste of time and the self-loathing that comes with it when you realise that you didn't know a thing. Not really. You've been an idiot. Everything you've done is in vain or some sort of egotistical nonsense. You've missed the point of being alive. And then suddenly God says, now you haven't got halfway to go still, because I know you're only, less than 40, but you've hurt yourself. You've hurt yourself now. So, however long you've got left, it's my time. And as the advert is fond of saying, no when you've been tangoed. So pretty much, Joshua tells us, this is what I got nailed above my door. As for me and my house, we serve the Lord.
Yes, right at the end of the book of Joshua.
Yeah, 24:15 to be precise. Which if you add them up, what do you get? 39. Some things are for you. They're just in there. And it springs out and you look at the numbers and you think, oh, of course that's for me, isn't it? It was almost put in there for me. Of course it's not, because there's millions and billions of people in the world. And most of us are really quite foolish. I used to think I was quite clever, but I was an idiot. And I still am. In 5 years, I'll look at myself now and cringe. I think, what a buffoon.
However, it was as close to breaking you once and for all as it was to changing you. But again, for the second time, you went back to the beginning.
Yes.
And you went back to the beginning. Your life had started again. A year zero almost, at the age of 39.
Yeah, I still had a lot to learn.
And you wanted to live not for yourself and for your own selfish desires. You wanted to live for God. And he seemed to be clearly saying, yes, you can serve me. You can serve me by witnessing to me and by helping others who are a bit like you.
Yeah. There was one important intermediary step. I had to move into a very bad area in Harlow, one that had gone downhill. Notice, with my new eyes, the staggering poverty and the humiliation of make friends with homeless people. fill out. I became an advocate, filling out forms for people because, they were on drugs or they couldn't think or, whatever. There were a couple of late night hospital dashes. There were a few women thrown in for good measure, and then you just think, no, I'm learning, but this is as empty as the other thing. I'm replacing alcohol with blind panic. I need something else to do. I moved away. And that, 2014, the beginning of 2014, I'm a songwriter and I work for God. So it took me about 18 months to get my head straight.
Yeah.
Because, to be fair, there was an enormous amount of brain damage and you were in a bit of a fog. And you've got no reference points. There's whole years I can't remember. How I can speak, sing a sentence together, how I'm a better songwriter. I can't remember anything to do with geography. My mathematics is appalling. Samantha has to virtually lead me round by the hand. But I just wrote an opera, brought it with me. While I Pretend on that opera is my masterpiece. It's an 11-minute prayer against. No, sorry, it's not. It's an 8.5-minute prayer against apathy.
Okay.
While I pretend that I couldn't care less, squander and spend emotions without regret, you always know that I ain't done yet. Just let me go and hope that I won't forget. I'm not as simple as I seem. Can't catch a flame unless you dream. You let me dream, and you believe. God believes in me, so I believe in him. He put a little bit of trust in me. Said, you ain't dead yet.
Yeah.
Go. What am I going to do? Let him down? So I was beaten and as injured, and you've got a list of things on that piece of paper there. They're the odds against me still. No money, no health. Very badly beaten up. But I think for a 44-year-old man, I'm remarkably, willfully innocent. And I do not know how that transfers into prison. I go in and I just be me. I did it at Kingstoke. You just be you, all floored and bleeding all over the stage.
Well,
I love you for it.
That's how God wants us. A broken and a contrite heart.
Yeah, my friend Ron reckons that I'm so busted because God keeps pouring stuff into me. He does. Songs are like dictation. I don't even bother writing down anymore. I just say, scribe! Sam gets a bit of paper and he dictates to me, I dictate to her. It's that easy. And
so you went on to meet Samantha, your wife. And
in church, yes.
In church, amen. And from there onwards...
Do you know where our first date was? Second date.
Not in prison, was it?
Yeah. Yeah. It was my first prison gig. And we went in with it was a Pentecostal church I met you at, wasn't it? Eventually when I got back to, well, this is a complicated story, you'll laugh at this.
Okay.
Right, which kind of covers questions 2 and 3 of your little questions that you didn't send me over the phone a couple of days ago so I could prepare.
I sent it to Sam's phone.
there we go. That's 1 degree of deniability, and I insist on my right to have that. Now, what happened was, I went in there, and I do what I usually do into this church. I showed off. I brought my guitar, because I can't help it. And I was up there singing How Great Thou Art at the top of my lungs. And Sam turned up, see. But I was new to the area, and I came with a tramp lady that was staying at my house because she was in the road with 2 black eyes and her boyfriend had beaten her up, and her boyfriend had got sent to prison, and the house was in the boyfriend's name, so she got homeless as well as having 2 black eyes, and she had a dog, and I'd been there about 3 days, so she came and stayed with me until Sammy and I found her somewhere to live. And in the meantime I brought her to church and hoping that she could make some normal friends, and perhaps we found her somewhere to live. Didn't quite work out, but I met Sammy there, and I was asked by the vicar to go and do a prison show. Okay, how hard can it be? And we went in, and I didn't realise what kind of prison it was, but then it was a sex offenders prison. But would I have cared? I doubt it. How does an idiot like me possibly? How can I really discriminate
You were broken and contrite.
Yeah. And so I get poured into. It comes out. Other people can splash about in it if they want to. But what happened that day was extraordinary, because didn't know what I was doing. I'd never done one before. Almost didn't get into it because I got into a fight with a guard because he touched me and he didn't say. And then we went in. Well, he didn't check the ladies or the vicar. And they walked through the gates, and then he started checking me, you see. And I turned around and asked him what the hell he thought he was doing. And I very nearly didn't get let in. But you see,
well,
you're in prison mode.
That's what prisoners love each other.
Yeah, you've got to go in there and be blokey in front of all these blokes, and you're not letting somebody touch you before you go. It's just a totally different mindset. So he got told off. But they still let me in anyway. And they were trying to take my spare guitar strings away in case I used them to strangle anybody else. What do you think I am? The light entertainment branch of Al-Qaeda? Come on, it's guitar strings. So there was a bit of trouble when we were late. And I'd written this song the night before called Prepare Ye the Way for the Lord. Because I thought I'm monumentally short on hymns at that point in my career, So I thought I'd write one, and I thought, someone who'd been to prison in the Bible. John the Baptist.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he got killed in prison. Yeah. So let's write. And his thing was prepare your way for the Lord.
Oh yes.
So I started with John's Gospel, the Word with God. The Word was made flesh, and He taught us a lot. How cool can it get? We live by the Word, not die by the sword. Children, it's reaping time. Then prepare you the way for the Lord. Second verse. John was a wild man, but clean to the bone, because when he washed his hands, he never did it alone. And but the thing was that really kind of freaked me out was that the boys in the band, there was no rehearsals. I just went up and did it, and something happened, and they all seemed to be able to play along, and the song was less than 24 hours old and not written down. And people started crying and falling over, and I thought that was a good thing, but apparently the vicar didn't like that. I don't know why. And
this was all in which prison, Joshua?
Am I allowed to say? Yeah, I am. It was in Little Hay.
I don't know.
It's near where we live. It's in Cambridgeshire. Yeah. And I went in there, and I don't ask what people are in for. I don't care. How can I? He says to preach the good news to everyone. He did.
In season and out.
Yeah, he went in pubs and tax collectors and spoke to, perhaps women of dubious employment, and serial polygamists, and all sorts of things. And he said, encouraged them to depart from their ways. But I didn't know any of this, so I could just come in like a bolt of lightning or whatever and do whatever it is that I do, and cause a mess and leave. But as part of it, you see, I had this idea that I wanted to get baptised properly, because like a full job.
Believer's baptism by full immersion.
Yeah, because I was 6 weeks old when I was baptised, so nobody asked me. Mum and Dad obviously.
When you were christened, yeah.
Yes, sir. But I always associate those two words as the same, because I was raised in a certain fashion, and it's only later in life that you realise that perhaps they're a separate thing. So I wanted to get baptised like in the Jordan or something, but it's not going to happen there. It's going to happen in a little pool or a tub or something. So they'd agreed to baptise me, this church that I went in with. So as part of my thing, I said to them, gentlemen, you are in prison for what you got caught for. If there is anything you did you haven't got caught for and you feel bad about it, write down on a piece of paper and give it to me. I will then lay it down at the foot of the cross when I lay down my burden next Sunday. Yeah, I got some notes. They trusted me after like 15 minutes with notes that some of them were stupid enough to sign. So I had these notes.
And this was the beginning, really, of your ministry with
Yeah,
God.
but it gets better yet.
As
It
a
gets
prison
better because the
troubadour.
church said, because that they thought there was some sort of devilment or trickery going on because I'd reduced these, or God and the Holy Spirit had reduced these. Oh, this don't do with me. I'm just there. And you know, these people who thought they were over crying and that, and if he said, there's a devil in you.
Really?
We're not going to baptise you. You're not ready. He said. Now this put me in a bit of a bind because I just made a promise to a bunch of boys in church that I was going to lay their confessions down along with my own burden on Pentecost Sunday of 2014. He'd thrown a spanner in the works. So I went round to all the other churches during that week and they wouldn't baptise me either because I wouldn't do the doctrine thing because their doctrines are self-serving. It's about them. It's not about... I couldn't go, yes, I believe this, just so somebody would chuck some water over me so that I could keep my word. So I ended up having to get a prayer from a woman in Iraq who'd done a similar thing for political reasons because she couldn't get it done. But I had a deadline and I baptised myself in my bathtub using her prayer that she'd written on the internet. I baptised myself in my bathtub on Pentecost Sunday at high noon on 2014 to keep my word to the boys in jail. The mission started in there, wet, naked, we had no heating so I was cold. In there, and I wrote a song called Born Alone Christian, about baptising myself in my own bathtub. I'm a born alone Christian, and started from there.
And now you're going to a prison in the Warrington area. In fact, as we speak,
yeah, that's like
you're going there.
There's like here and our second, and there is like a kind of a second home now. Yeah, we've been very, very well received. Samantha would probably be a better judge of why. I have absolutely no idea, but we treat. They've said we're like royalty in here. It's difficult. It's difficult.
But there are parallels here for those who know their music. There are parallels with the aforementioned Johnny Cash, a singer-songwriter, a Christian as well, a man who really
with a monumentally self-destructive streak.
Yeah, and so there are
needs
lots
to be
of parallels there. And of course, the live album, Live from Folsom Prison in California, when basically Johnny Cash went in with the gospel message, but was able to relate to those prisoners in there, because he knew what a wicked sinner he had been, he still was in life. And therefore he could relate to those men in there.
Yeah.
Joshua, for you, do you find it easy to relate to prisoners in prison?
Yeah.
Because you've been broken yourself.
I've told them more than once. I look at their little sweet young innocent faces and I think, what could you possibly be in here for? So believe it or not, I'm the guiltiest man in the room. And I'm free and you're not, there ain't no justice to you. It's a good place to build a rapport. And you basically tell them what, colossal.
What an idiot you've been.
Colossal idiot I've been. And you hang yourself up as an example of what not to do. And
why not
and
to
why,
do this as well?
and how it is relevant to this, and you
Meaning
also,
the Bible.
but you also go in this deplorable physical condition, because I'm injured all over the place, and give them something that is supposedly physically impossible.
E.g. new life.
No, e.g., how does a man with a walking stick stand without one, jumping up and down for an hour? I've got one leg shorter than the other. I fall over a lot in there. My knees give way. I'm drenched with sweat because of the pain within the first 5 minutes.
Really, it's a painful experience. Physically painful.
Yeah, I've got chronic fatigue syndrome. I've got no liver left. Let's have a look at our list of merry maladies. I mean, there's I've got no immune system, so if I catch anything, I'm dead. I've got a thyroid, underactive thyroid, which means I've got basically no metabolism left. I've got a phenomenally low level of vitamin D. Yeah. So I'm on pills, I rattle like an apothecary for the rest of my life.
So you
I've got
go
brain
into a
damage,
prison.
colossal brain damage. I shouldn't be able to do any of this.
Is it the Holy Spirit? Is it the power of God that allows you to go in?
Yeah, ain't me. I'm an idiot from Harlow, John. What happened? I got drunk for 22 years, came back as somebody else, and God said, right, they'd be like, you idiot, and off we go. On a
When you go
mission.
into a prison, Joshua,
Yes.
what stuff do you play?
Well, I think there's a certain amount of storytelling. There's a certain amount of Bible, which and because my name is Joshua, because they are in the wilderness. I see this time in jail as their wilderness time. They are apart from the rest of the world. There is nobody bugging them about credit card bills, peer pressure for cars, telephones, drugs, going out drinking, whatever. They're apart from it. Nothing is pulling at them. If they want to, they can sit there in a still space. I did. I had to invent the space. I drew it in my head. It's called Abe's Peak. It's just a desert landscape painted orange. And I retreated into my own head many, many times for an 18-month period and just sat there and looked at the world and tried to check out what was wrong with it by putting things in between rocks and hard places and seeing which things were true and which things were not. It's called Abe's Peak and it exists entirely in my head. I tell them about that. To focus on things, yeah, but don't get caught up. To draw back almost to the point of metaphor so that you can, or an analogy for a macro view. And then that is where you write a story that is of universal appeal because everybody feels it.
And
it's just
how
putting
do they
it.
respond when they hear your testimony, when they hear the lyrics of your songs? What sort of responses have you had?
Overwhelmingly positive. Standing ovation jobs, yeah. First one in there, they've had two in there now. I don't quite know what to do with that, to be fair. Yes. Standing ovation jobs. Yeah, I just come on like very, very vulnerable but unbreakable, and we tell them stories. There's the quick version of Exodus where I rewrote Chuck Berry's Promised Land. Well, I left my home to go see the Pharaoh, but I swear it wasn't my idea. And the Pharaoh told me, son, just to keep building, so I stayed for 400 years. And you can get through an awful lot, and tell it in rhyme. So there's that. Joshua Fit, the Battle of Jericho is a rock and roll song.
Yeah.
Then I talk about the civil war that is within them. They are their own promised land. It is not an exterior thing, it is an internal state of affairs. And,
Which leads me perhaps to my final question. For anybody listening to this, Joshua,
yes.
You're going into actual, real, proper physical prisons and basically being God's representative, taking a message of hope, the gospel message to them.
That's a heavy thing.
Many people live in different types of prisons.
I did. Yeah, I was in a prison of my own making for a very long time.
What would you say to anybody listening to this who might be realising, maybe for the first time, I'm in a prison, whether physical or emotional or spiritual? What would you say to them?
Gather, regroup, and then run head first out and knock it down. And jump on it until it's dust. Bring it to the four corners of the world, saying, go in there again. Yeah. Knock it down. Or ask God to knock it down. Like he did with Paul.
And
He
got him
just
out
went
of
in
the
there
prison.
and just, at least twice, I think, wasn't he?
Yes, got him out of prison.
He's a top escapologist. He's God. He's Harry Houdini's big brother. He knows what he's doing. There ain't nothing he can't do. And this state I'm in, I tell boys, this is divine justice. I believe in divine justice. If I'm in pain, it's because I earned it. I don't mind. And I suspect that I am in precisely the amount of discomfort to empathise with them at this particular stage. No more, no less, lest it would be unjust. Now, unfortunately, this means I'm an idiot, because I'm not open to suggestion. I would not be told. I would not read this voluntarily. I had to get hit with a big stick. Well, if that's what it took, so be it. Now I live the life of a penitent. I'm a vegan. Nothing dies in my name. I'm annoyingly moral about absolutely everything, but I go in there as a broken vessel.
A broken and a contrite heart.
Yeah, and a heart that is after God's heart. So, yeah. What are your ambitions? Yes, well, we're going to make a film for the BBC, about this very subject by the look of it. Providing we can go in and they can film a concert, we'll do this, and perhaps part of the footage that we'll shoot today will be in it. Because we're taping this for you. Who knows? But that's not my ambition. I have one ambition. Can you guess what it is?
To follow Jesus.
I want to go to heaven. I want to go to heaven.
Yeah.
The alternative is unthinkable.
Yeah.
It's awful. So that's it. I want to go to heaven. And this, look, I'm a songwriter. What else am I going to do?
And Jesus said, at the end times, on Judgment Day, the Son of Man will be sat on his throne, and the nations will be gathered before him. And he will sort them out, one person from another, and he will separate the sheep from the goats. And one of the things that Jesus will say to people was, I was in prison and you visited me.
Yes.
Joshua Francis, he was in prison and you visited him. You're listening to Flame Radio on 1521 medium wave and online and on DAB across the city of Manchester. Our guest today has been the singer-songwriter Joshua Francis. Joshua, thank you very much.
Honour and a privilege, thank you.
God bless you.
God bless you too.